Marcus Chen had built Technova Industries from the ground up over 15 years, transforming it into a billion-dollar corporation specializing in renewable energy solutions. But now, standing in the glass-walled conference room on the 40th floor, he faced the most challenging problem of his career. The holographic display showed a complex algorithm that had stumped his entire team of PhD engineers for 6 months. The quantum energy distribution model they needed to crack would revolutionize solar panel efficiency by 300%, but every simulation ended in failure. The room buzzed with tension as his head of R&D, Dr. Sarah Martinez, presented the latest failed attempt. "We've tried every conventional approach," she said, her voice heavy with frustration. "The quantum interference patterns keep destabilizing at the molecular level. We're missing something fundamental." Marcus stared at the swirling mathematical equations, each representing millions of dollars in research and development. His investors were growing impatient, and competitors were closing in on similar technology. Outside the conference room, the building hummed with activity. Engineers worked late into the evening, their coffee cups accumulating like badges of dedication. In the executive suite, Marcus's assistant reminded him of the upcoming board meeting where he'd have to explain why their flagship project remained stalled. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, not just for the company's future, but for the environmental impact their breakthrough could have on the world. As the meeting disbanded with another day of futile progress, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the solution was right in front of them, hiding in plain sight. He had built his reputation on seeing possibilities others missed, on finding diamonds in the rough. But this time, the rough seemed impenetrable. The cleaning staff began their evening rounds as executives filed out, and Marcus remained, staring at the equations that mocked him from the wall display. The irony wasn't lost on him that in a building full of brilliant minds, the answer remained elusive. He had always believed that genius could emerge from anywhere, that the next breakthrough might come from the most unexpected source. As he finally gathered his papers to leave, Marcus made a mental note to expand their recruitment efforts to non-traditional candidates. Sometimes the biggest innovations came from those who thought differently, who hadn't been trained to see limitations where others saw roadblocks. The next evening, Marcus decided to stay late again, hoping a fresh perspective might illuminate what his team was missing. As he worked in his office, he heard voices in the conference room, unusual for this time of night. Curious, he walked over to investigate and found Elena Rodriguez, one of the night cleaning staff, helping her daughter with homework at the conference table. His first instinct was to remind them about company policy, but something made him pause. 15-year-old Sofia Rodriguez sat surrounded by advanced mathematics textbooks that seemed far beyond typical high school curriculum. Her mother, Elena, apologized profusely in accented English, explaining that the library had closed and she couldn't leave Sofia alone at home. "She has a big test tomorrow," Elena said, beginning to pack up their materials. But Marcus's attention was drawn to the notebook filled with elegant mathematical proofs that seemed to dance across the page. "Wait," Marcus said gently, his business instincts overriding protocol. "What kind of mathematics are you studying, Sofia?" The teenager looked up with intelligent dark eyes, suddenly self-conscious about being discovered in the executive conference room. She explained she was self-studying quantum mechanics and theoretical physics, using online courses from MIT and Stanford. Her dream was to attend university, though the family's financial situation made that seem impossible. Elena worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and working at a grocery store during the day, to support Sofia's education. She had immigrated from El Salvador with hopes of giving her daughter opportunities she never had. Despite having been a mathematics teacher in her home country, language barriers and credential recognition issues had forced Elena into survival jobs. But she never stopped believing in education's power to transform lives. As Marcus listened to Sofia explain her current project on quantum field theory, he realized this young woman possessed an intuitive understanding of complex mathematical concepts that many of his PhD employees struggled with. Her approach was unconventional but elegant, showing a natural gift for seeing patterns and connections others missed. When Elena mentioned they should leave, Marcus surprised himself by asking if they could stay a few more minutes. Something told him this encounter might be more significant than a simple policy violation. "Before you go," Marcus said, gesturing toward the wall display that still showed their unsolved quantum distribution problem, "I'm curious about your perspective on something." Sophia's eyes immediately locked onto the complex equations, and Marcus watched her expression shift from polite attention to intense fascination. Without hesitation, she approached the display, her mind already working through the mathematical relationships presented before her. Elena looked mortified, certain her daughter was about to embarrass herself in front of the company's CEO. "Sophia, don't bother Mr. Chen with your schoolwork," she whispered urgently. But Marcus held up a hand, captivated by the teenager's focused examination of the problem that had stumped his entire engineering team. Sophia traced patterns in the air, her lips moving silently as she worked through calculations in her head. "The interference patterns," Sophia murmured, almost to herself. "You're treating quantum states as discrete entities, but what if they're part of a continuous field topology?" Marcus felt his pulse quicken. In 30 seconds, this teenager had identified a fundamental assumption his team had never questioned. She continued, her voice growing more confident. "If you map the energy distribution as a hyperbolic manifold instead of Euclidean space, the interference should stabilize." The room fell silent except for the hum of the building's ventilation system. Marcus stared at the equations with new eyes, seeing the elegant simplicity Sophia had revealed in what they had overcomplicated. Elena watched in amazement as her daughter, the girl she knew was brilliant but rarely had the opportunity to demonstrate it, engaged with a billion-dollar problem as naturally as discussing the weather. "Show me," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. He handed Sophia a digital stylus, and she began modifying the equations on the wall display. Her movements were fluid, confident, each mathematical transformation revealing deeper layers of understanding. Within minutes, she had restructured the entire approach, transforming an unsolvable problem into an elegant solution. Marcus realized he was witnessing something extraordinary, not just intellectual brilliance, but the kind of innovative thinking that could change the world. Sophia worked with the focused intensity of a master musician performing a complex symphony. Her modifications to the quantum distribution model were both radical and beautiful, challenging fundamental assumptions that Marcus's team had accepted without question. "See here," she explained, highlighting specific portions of her revised equations. "The instability occurs because you're forcing quantum states into classical geometric frameworks. But quantum particles don't behave classically." Marcus watched in fascination as Sophia introduced concepts from differential topology and algebraic geometry that his engineers had never considered applying to this problem. Her mathematical intuition seemed almost supernatural. She could see connections and patterns that remained invisible to others. "The energy distribution needs to account for quantum entanglement at the molecular level," she continued, her stylus dancing across the display as new equations emerged. Elena stood transfixed, seeing her daughter in a new light. She had always known Sophia was exceptionally bright, but watching her solve a problem that had stumped PhD scientists was both thrilling and overwhelming. "Mija, where did you learn this?" she asked in Spanish. Sophia replied that she had been studying these concepts on her own, driven by curiosity about how the universe worked at its most fundamental level. As the solution took shape, Marcus began running mental calculations about the implications. If Sophia's approach was correct, it would not only solve their current problem but potentially revolutionize multiple aspects of quantum engineering. The efficiency gains alone could transform the renewable energy industry, making solar power economically viable in regions where it had never been competitive before. "We need to test this," Marcus said, reaching for his phone to call his head of engineering. But Sophia shook her head gently. "The simulation parameters in your current model won't work with this approach. You'll need to recalibrate the quantum field generators and modify the measurement protocols." She proceeded to outline the exact changes required, demonstrating a practical understanding that went far beyond theoretical knowledge. Marcus realized he wasn't just witnessing brilliance, he was seeing the future of his company taking shape in real time. Dr. Sarah Martinez received Marcus's emergency call with skepticism that quickly transformed into amazement as she reviewed Sophia's work. Racing back to the office with her core team, she found herself face-to-face with a teenager whose mathematical insights challenged everything she thought she knew about quantum field theory. "This is theoretically sound," Sarah admitted after an hour of analysis, "but the practical applications." She trailed off, running complex simulations on the lab's quantum computers. The first test results were extraordinary. Sophia's modifications didn't just solve the stability problem, they exceeded every performance target the team had set. Energy distribution efficiency improved by 340%, surpassing their most optimistic projections. The quantum interference patterns that had plagued their research for months stabilized perfectly, creating a cascade effect that optimized the entire system's performance. Elena watched the excitement build around her daughter, feeling a mixture of pride and concern. She understood enough about the situation to realize that Sophia had accomplished something remarkable, but she also worried about the implications for their simple life. "What does this mean for us?" she asked Marcus quietly, while engineers celebrated in the background and Sophia explained her methodology to fascinated scientists. Marcus found himself grappling with questions he had never faced before. How do you properly acknowledge and compensate a 15-year-old for solving a billion-dollar problem? What obligations did he have to this family who had stumbled into his conference room by accident? More importantly, how could he ensure that Sophia's extraordinary gift was nurtured and developed without exploiting their vulnerable circumstances? As dawn broke over the city skyline, the lab buzzed with activity unlike anything Marcus had seen in his career. Engineers who had spent months in frustration worked with renewed energy, implementing Sophia's elegant solution. The implications extended far beyond their original project. Her approach opened doors to applications they had never considered possible. But in the midst of celebrating this breakthrough, Marcus knew the most important decisions lay ahead: how to honor the trust this remarkable family had placed in him, and how to ensure that genius, regardless of its origin, received the recognition and opportunity it deserved. News of the breakthroughs spread through Technova's headquarters like wildfire, but Marcus insisted on keeping Sophia's identity confidential until he could properly discuss the situation with her and Elena. The engineering team, sworn to secrecy, worked around the clock to implement the solution while Marcus grappled with the ethical implications of the discovery. He found himself consulting with lawyers, educators, and child psychologists about how to proceed responsibly. Sophia, meanwhile, seemed remarkably unfazed by the magnitude of what she had accomplished. When Marcus visited her at home, a modest apartment in a working-class neighborhood, she was helping her younger brother with elementary math homework while her mother prepared for her grocery store shift. The contrast between her extraordinary intellectual capabilities and her humble circumstances struck Marcus profoundly, reinforcing his belief that talent exists everywhere, often hidden by circumstance. Elena expressed concerns that Marcus initially didn't fully understand. She worried about her daughter becoming a spectacle, about losing control over Sophia's education and future. "In El Salvador, I taught mathematics to children from wealthy families," she explained. "I know how the world treats people like us. They see opportunity to use, not opportunity to give." Her insights about class dynamics and exploitation forced Marcus to examine his own motivations and assumptions. The technical validation continued to exceed expectations. Independent verification by MIT and Stanford confirmed that Sophia's approach represented a fundamental breakthrough in quantum field applications. Patent attorneys worked overtime to protect the intellectual property, while Marcus insisted that Sophia be listed as the primary inventor. The financial implications were staggering. Early estimates suggested the technology could generate over $10 billion in revenue within the first 5 years. As media outlets began sniffing around the story, Marcus faced increasing pressure to reveal details about the breakthrough. Investors demanded to know how Technova had suddenly solved their most challenging technical problem. Competitors scrambled to understand what they had missed. But Marcus remained focused on ensuring that whatever decisions were made, they prioritized Sophia's well-being and future over corporate interests. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than any business deal he had ever negotiated. Marcus proposed a comprehensive plan that would secure Sophia's future while respecting her family's concerns. A substantial trust fund would ensure her education through PhD level at any institution she chose, while Elena would receive a consulting position helping Technova develop community outreach programs. The intellectual property rights would make the family financially secure for generations, but with protections to prevent exploitation or mismanagement. Sophia's response surprised everyone involved. Rather than excitement about sudden wealth, she expressed concern about her community and others facing similar barriers to education. "There are brilliant kids in my school who will never get the chance to show what they can do," she said. "If this money can't help them too, what's the point?" Her maturity and social consciousness impressed Marcus and reinforced his conviction that they were dealing with someone truly exceptional. Elena's perspective began shifting as she saw how seriously Marcus took their concerns and how carefully he structured protections for Sophia's future. Working with education consultants and child development experts, they designed a plan that would accelerate Sophia's academic development without isolating her from peers or overwhelming her with pressure. She would continue living at home while accessing advanced coursework through partnerships with local universities. The implementation of Sophia's solution proceeded flawlessly, with production models showing even better performance than laboratory prototypes. Technova's stock price soared as investors recognized the revolutionary implications of the breakthrough. But Marcus insisted that success be measured not just in financial terms, but in how well they honored their commitment to nurturing exceptional talent regardless of background. As the story began to leak to the media, Marcus worked with Elena and Sophia to control the narrative. They wanted to highlight the importance of recognizing talent in unexpected places without turning Sophia into a celebrity or creating unrealistic expectations for other young people. The focus remained on the technology's potential to address climate change and the importance of inclusive approaches to innovation and education. The revelation of Sophia's role in solving Technova's billion-dollar problem created waves throughout the scientific and business communities. Universities began reevaluating their recruitment and outreach strategies, recognizing that exceptional talent might be overlooked due to traditional selection criteria. Major corporations launched programs to identify and nurture unconventional genius in underserved communities. Sophia found herself at the center of a media storm, but Marcus's careful preparation helped her navigate the attention with remarkable grace. In interviews, she consistently redirected focus from her personal story to the broader issues of educational equity and scientific innovation. Her eloquence and maturity impressed audiences worldwide, making her an inadvertent spokesperson for the potential that exists within marginalized communities. Elena's life transformed in ways she had never imagined possible. From cleaning offices and stocking shelves, she now consulted with major corporations on diversity and inclusion initiatives. Her insights about recognizing and developing talent proved invaluable to organizations seeking to innovate more effectively. The mathematics teacher who had been forced into survival jobs finally found herself valued for her expertise and perspective. The success of Sophia's quantum field solution opened doors to applications nobody had anticipated. Medical researchers adapted her approach to improve drug delivery systems. Materials scientists used her methodology to develop stronger, lighter composites. The elegant mathematics she had intuitively understood began revolutionizing multiple industries, creating a cascade of innovation that extended far beyond renewable energy. Marcus watched these developments with deep satisfaction, knowing that his decision to recognize and nurture Sophia's talent had created benefits extending far beyond corporate profits. The scholarship program they established in her name had already identified dozens of exceptional students from underserved communities. The ripple effects of that evening encounter in the conference room continued expanding, touching lives and creating opportunities in ways nobody had predicted. A year after the breakthrough, Sophia had become something she never expected, a bridge between worlds that rarely intersected. She spent mornings in advanced quantum physics courses at the local university, afternoons mentoring struggling students in her old high school, and evenings working with Technova's research team on next-generation applications. Her unique position allowed her to translate complex scientific concepts for diverse audiences while maintaining connections to her community. The Technova Foundation, established with proceeds from Sophia's innovations, had become a model for corporate social responsibility in STEM education. Rather than simply providing scholarships, it created comprehensive support systems addressing the barriers that prevented talented students from reaching their potential. Elena's role as program director ensured that initiatives remained grounded in understanding the real challenges faced by underserved communities. Marcus found that the company's culture had evolved in unexpected ways. Engineers and scientists began approaching problems with greater openness to unconventional solutions, recognizing that breakthrough insights could emerge from any source. The diversity of perspectives within Technova's workforce expanded dramatically as they actively recruited talent from non-traditional backgrounds, leading to more creative and effective problem-solving. Sophia's academic trajectory remained extraordinary, but careful attention to her emotional and social development ensured she didn't lose touch with normal teenage experiences. She attended prom, played soccer, and maintained friendships with classmates who knew her as Sophia the person rather than Sophia the genius. The balance between nurturing her exceptional capabilities and preserving her humanity became a model for supporting gifted children from all backgrounds. International recognition continued to grow as Sophia's work influenced scientific research worldwide. She spoke at conferences, published papers, and collaborated with leading researchers while still completing her high school education. The respect she commanded in academic circles, despite her age, demonstrated that intellectual merit transcended traditional hierarchies when properly recognized and supported. 5 years after that fateful evening encounter, Sofia Rodriguez had become Dr. Sofia Rodriguez, having completed an accelerated PhD program in quantum physics while maintaining her commitment to community engagement and social justice. Her dissertation research had opened entirely new fields of scientific inquiry, establishing her as one of the most influential young scientists of her generation. The solar technology based on her original breakthrough had revolutionized global energy markets, making clean power accessible to billions of people previously dependent on fossil fuels. The environmental impact exceeded all projections, contributing significantly to international climate change mitigation efforts. But perhaps more importantly, the story of its discovery had changed how society thought about recognizing and developing talent. Elena Rodriguez had become an internationally recognized expert on educational equity and corporate social responsibility. Her insights about identifying and nurturing unconventional genius influenced policy at the highest levels of government and industry. The mathematics teacher, who had once cleaned offices to survive, now advised presidents and prime ministers on maximizing their nation's intellectual potential. Marcus Chin looked back on that evening as the most important moment of his business career, not because of the financial success it generated, but because of the lives it changed and the barriers it dismantled. Technova had become more than a successful corporation. It had become a catalyst for recognizing that genius existed everywhere, waiting for the right moment and the right person to see its potential. The conference room where Sophia had first demonstrated her extraordinary capabilities had been preserved as a reminder of what was possible when people looked beyond assumptions and stereotypes. A simple plaque read, "Innovation has no boundaries. Genius recognizes no barriers. The future belongs to those who see potential where others see only problems." It served as daily inspiration to employees and visitors alike, reminding them that the next breakthrough might come from the most unexpected source, requiring only the wisdom to recognize it and the courage to nurture it. The story of that night had become legendary within Technova and throughout the broader business community, but its most important legacy lived in the lives changed and opportunities created. Thousands of students from underserved communities had found pathways to higher education and meaningful careers. Hundreds of companies had revised their approaches to talent identification and development. And somewhere in conference rooms and classrooms around the world, other potential geniuses were being recognized, supported, and empowered to change the world. Marcus often wondered how many breakthrough solutions remained undiscovered, hidden in the minds of people society had overlooked or undervalued. But he no longer wondered passively. He acted, ensuring that Technova and the Foundation continued expanding opportunities for exceptional minds, regardless of their background or circumstances. The future, he had learned, belonged to those wise enough to recognize that innovation could emerge from anywhere, requiring only the vision to see it and the commitment to nurture it.